Hello, welcome to another episode of The Heart of the Matter. I remember when I was 12 years old, I lost my cousin. He was 10, and I remember his words were, "My legs are aching." He was taken to hospital, and shortly after, we were told he died. For over a year now, a friend of mine has been in hospital, and then I have another friend who's had sickle cell before, but now she says she's healed, that God healed her miraculously. Today we have with us a strong woman who at some point in her life tried to commit suicide, but now she's found a way to turn her pain into a message. And now she has a blog where she shares her stories and other people's stories, giving people hope. So I hope if you have sickle cell, or you know someone that has sickle cell, or have a child that has sickle cell, I hope that you find encouragement watching this episode, and most importantly, faith. My name is Omotola Fatunsin, and our topic for today is Living Strong. Welcome back. Our guest for today is Omotola Fatunsin. Omotola, thank you very much for coming on The Heart of the Matter.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Awesome. When did you come to the realization that you had sickle cell?
Well, I guess it took me a little while because while I was growing, I really didn't understand it. I just knew I was quite different from every other kid in school. I had to be absent from classes. I was always taken to the hospital, but I could not wrap my head around the cause. I just knew I was different. So I guess I would say the realization came when I got to SS3, and I was going to write my final exams, and I could hear my parents talking about Sickel and things like that. They're just making references to it, and I really could not wrap my head around it. But with time, as I grew and I had the phone, I could browse, read up on sickle cell anemia, go to clinic and all that. I began to know what sickle cell really meant. Yes.
Okay. And so I read excerpts of your blog, a poem dealing with the negative and embracing the positive. Can you tell us some of the emotions that you go through?
Okay. I would say I go through the emotion of anger. Yeah, because it was very annoying to find out that there's some things you can't do when other people could do it. For instance, I was always kept from taking cold water. And it was so, was frustrating when the whole house was chilling with, some cold wine and all that. And then you are told you can't take ice cubes. And I'm like, what makes me different from others? Why can't I take something cold? And, well, with time, I think I just got used to it. And I overcame anger, I overcame frustration, I overcame, the frequent annoyances and outbursts that I often had at home. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read excerpts from an article that you wrote on the blog that I read. It says, I was just 15, but it seemed I was 50 already, always angry and bitter at life for the fair share I've had. I've had enough of the pain episodes, bone pain crisis, and acute chest syndrome, the crying and the shrieks accompanied by a crisis. The sunshine beamed through the window, intruding, as if to prevent me from accomplishing my mission. I was determined, hence I ignored its noisiness. I tiptoed to the pantry and placed the cold, icy tip on my belly. I closed my eyes and summoned the courage to drive it in. I needed a break, a total one at that. As the pressure from my trembling fingers mounted, I suddenly realized it wasn't simply about yesterday and today. How about tomorrow? I hadn't given it a thought. I went down, broken and in tears. The black, sharp and shiny object glided out of my hands. I wept profusely. No longer do I call it my fair share. It is my blessed share. I've learned to trust him in the gloomy darkness. I've learned to rest in his unfailing love. I've learned to lean on the shoulders of the one who can carry me. I remember reading this and I was quite emotional, teary-eyed. Wow. Can you tell us about this?
Okay, well, that age, I think
How old were you?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah, I was 15. I think I was in SS1 then. And that day, I just felt I'd had enough, and I felt it was much better to end it and not give people pressure, because everybody were always on their toe because of me. And I just did some very funny calculations for my parents, because we were four. I'm the third out of four. And I was like, well, if I leave, then I think it's okay. They'd have three other ones to fall on. And that day, I quietly went to the kitchen. I took a knife, and I shut the door. And I just felt, well, I think when they return, they'll find me dead and just bury me, and it's over. Okay? So I got to the kitchen. I tiptoed to the pantry, like I said, and I sat down and placed the knife on my tummy. Yeah, it was a knife. I didn't mention it in the story. Yeah, it was a knife. So I placed it on my tummy, and I was just going to push and drive the whole thing in. But I don't know. I think something just restricted me and debarred me from doing what I wanted to do. And I thought about it. I felt it's beyond now. It's beyond today. Yes, it's beyond today. It's beyond what had happened yesterday. It's about what's going to happen tomorrow. So why don't I stay and see what God would have do or will do with my life and all. And I think that was just the message that came to me at that point in time, and I was able to forget about suicide. Okay. Yes, I was able to forget about suicide and then trust God to help me live this life.
Hold that thought. Viewers, we're going on a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're still talking about living strong with sickle cell. Omotola, before we went on the break, you were telling us about how you almost committed suicide. Before we continue, I'd like us to talk about what sickle cell is for people that are watching who maybe have just been told that they have it or they have children that have it. Can you tell what is sickle cell?
Okay. Yeah, sickle cell just connotes that the cells in the body of a sufferer are usually very crescent shaped, like bean, rather than round. And then if they're round, they're supposed to go freely through the blood vessels. But when they are bent, more like a moon shape, crescent shape, it sticks to the wall of the blood vessels, and then it restricts blood flow. Okay. So people with sickle cell sometimes have episodes of pain because blood doesn't go around their body as it ought to. And that's why doctors often advise that they take lots of water so they could be hydrated, and the blood could circulate freely through the body.
So when the blood doesn't fill, it triggers oxygen as well?
Exactly, it does. It does. And doctors also advise that they don't do much of high-level walking or high-altitude climbing and all that. So it doesn't give them shortness of breath and all that.
So in terms of the crisis, are there varying degrees or does everyone go through the same level of pain?
It varies.
Can you tell
us about that? Okay. For some people with sickle cell, their symptoms are not so bad. Yes, they have it mild. Okay. But there are some people with sickle cell whose symptoms are so chronic and they have to be hospitalized every now and then. Okay, so it varies. It varies. And sometimes some crises just tend to be mild, while some crises are always very bad and you have to be hospitalized. But there's some kind of crises I could have and I don't necessarily have to go to the hospital. I just use some drugs and wait and see how it goes.
So there is obviously medication that helps.
Of course, there are.
Better.
Yeah, there are.
Okay. Yeah. Instead of so what is the difference between sickle cell and the sickle cell trait? Okay.
Someone with sickle cell has both an hemoglobin SS, they call it HbSS, they call them HbSS, or non-sickers. That's what the term people with sickle cell has. Then people who are just carriers, most of them, they have a trait, a single trait, that's AS. So the problem with people who are carriers is they must be very conscious of whom to marry. Because when a carrier marries a carrier, then there is, yeah, of
like
course,
a 1 in 4 chance.
Exactly. They're going to have sickle cell children. So it could be 1 out of 4. It could be 2. But it varies.
Not necessarily. I actually have a friend who, she's AS, her husband is AS.
Okay.
And they have 3 children, and none of them have sickle cell.
That's great. It doesn't happen all the time.
Yes.
And perhaps maybe they took some medical precautions. Because now, sometimes the genotype of a child could be determined from the womb. Now, yes, there are a lot of technologies in that regard. So sometimes they could just check for the blood sample from the womb.
I know she said she checked.
Okay.
But then thankfully none of them.
None of them.
Yes, and I actually have another friend who, she was SS.
Okay.
And the father of her child's AS.
Okay.
And their child is AS as well. Okay. So yes, I guess it's a probability. It's based on probability.
It's not safe for people who are very conscious of their genotype to go into marriage with each other. As long as they know they are carriers, it's not safe. Because sometimes you could think you won't have any of them. It could be the first you're having that's going to be.
And it's really not even about you, it's about the child.
Exactly.
And preventing a child from going through, you know, when they don't have
pain.
to. Exactly. Okay, can we talk about, so going back to suicide, you know, when you almost committed suicide, did things change for you from that? Did you have a new perspective?
Well,
because if you look at, you said, no longer do I call it my fair share, it is my blessed share. And for me, when I read that, I just thought that was so profound. To be able to say that. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I guess that day I just came to accept it. I faced it as a reality, and I just...
And that is, I remember reading that you said it's temporary.
Exactly.
Compared to the glory that is to come.
Exactly. And looking at what a crisis is, really, the way it comes and the way it goes, you just begin to see it as a phase that you may necessarily have to go through. And sometimes it could be reduced to the barest minimum when you do what the doctor asks you to do and you try to take care of yourself and avoid stress. It works fine and it goes on to prevent frequent crises. But all the same, I'll just say, I just saw it as something I had to accept. It was real, it was the truth, and I just had to take it as it was. And I decided to live my life.
So how has faith, exactly, you decided to live?
Yeah, I decided to live.
How has faith helped you? How has your faith grown as a result of the condition? And how, even when you, I'm sure you had questions like, why me? How has faith helped you?
Okay, well, I believe in Jesus. And I know him to be a great physician. And I've experienced some miraculous healing. In times past.
Can you tell us?
Okay. I could remember very clearly when I was very little. I can't remember the age now, but I could be around 6 or 7. Okay, I told you I didn't know what sickle cell is. I just knew I was always falling sick, going to the hospital and all that. Okay, so that day I was at church and it began. Stomach was throbbing, my knees were aching, and my parents were quite worried. So they carried me and they were like praying over me and all. So they invited one of the pastors in the church and told them to please pray for their daughter. And the man it was the day for communion service that day. So the man just felt, I guess he felt led to give me some of the bread. So he just went to the table and took some bread and, a little wine. And, I chewed that thing. I was just in the, I'm crying here, these people are giving me bread to eat, And I took it, I ate it, and you wouldn't believe, it was instant.
Wow.
It was instant. I got, as in the pains just, it disappeared. It disappeared. It was instant, and I got well. And, I was playing and all around again. I've had times when I've been hospitalized, and it's seeming, people are giving up hope on me. Maybe the blood level is so low, and they're like, what next and all. And there are times when God has really come through for me. So faith, it has been a major part of my life. And I don't joke with God. I don't. Yes. God has been a source of strength and sustenance all along. Because my life while growing has always been based on, okay, when I'm sick, the first point of call is to pray to God. We pray to God, and then we do other medications doctors ask us to do. And then when it's becoming a last resort, that's when I have to go to the hospital. So it has been that way. I didn't even grow up with injections, frequent injections being given to me for the pains and all. I grew up basically with just oral pain drugs and prayers, basically. I think when I began to take the injections frequently and all was by the time I got admitted into the university.
Hold that thought. We'll actually continue after. Viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. We still have with us Omotola Fatunsin, who has been sharing her experience living with sickle cell. Omotola, clearly God has been your pillar of strength through this whole episode, through your experiences. Are there any other experiences you'd like to share with us?
Okay, I think I'd like to tell you about my final exam in the secondary school. Okay. I had a very bad crisis then. I was going to write my WAEC, and from the first paper to the very last, I was writing it breathing in pains.
Wow.
Okay. I had bone pains, and they were severe, and I had very tender parts in my leg from swellings and all that. Okay, so for every paper I wrote, they had to take me to the hall, pad my backs with pillows so I could be a bit comfortable, and had to write. And while writing, I was just, pouring tears from my eyes because I was so uncomfortable. I was so much in pain, and I just felt, well, I just have to do this. Anyway, I have to do this. So it was a tough time for me. It was a tough time because it made all eyes, Exactly. The focus was just me. The whole of the hall knew there was somebody in this hall who had sickle cell and who was having a very bad crisis. So it brought me to the limelight. A lot of people in my school who never knew that I had sickle cell knew because of that experience. So a lot of the invigilators were very caring. Most of them were. So they ensured that even the cream relievers I had, they allowed them apply them for me so I could be a bit, I could feel relief and all that. So there's some of my papers I had to write in my vice principal's car so I could have ventilation because of the oxygen and all that. So I had to write my papers in the car so as to get some air and be fine. But it was a tough time for me anyway. My parents were very supportive. My siblings were very supportive. And each time I got home after a paper, next thing is to shower and then, come back to rest. And they ensured that I had oral hydration spray because normally I should get on drips because not feeling well would make you not want to eat, not want to take anything. So they ensured that I was hydrated orally. So it was more like they forced it, and I just had to be fine. I had no choice. And then studying, they had to help me with studying. They take my textbook, take my notes, and try to. They read to me. They read to me all through the period. Yeah, my siblings too. Sometimes I had to use the toilet and all. My brother has to carry me, and I couldn't move and walk around freely and all that. But it was a tough time anyway, but I thank God because it's so clear that God was in it and God was involved. Because at the end of the paper, it's funny because there was this paper I was writing an English paper that day, and the person beside me, irrespective of the fact that I was so sick and, crying and all, she was actually spying for me and writing it. I could imagine. So I wondered that, what am I writing? Instead of you to tell me you want to teach me, you are copying from me. And clearly I was very sick. But I thank God because everything came out fine, and I had a distinction. I had 6 credits. Fantastic. And I had 2 passes. Yeah, and that was enough for me to get university admission. Wow. So that was when I got into Lagos State University, just immediately after. I wrote my JAM 2 just once. I had 258.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no
Clearly,
special
I mean,
things.
you're a strong woman, and you also have a
Right.
strong support
I do.
system around you.
Yeah, I
But
do.
can you tell us this amazing blog that you started? What was the
Okay.
inspiration behind the blog?
Okay.
And
Okay. Live strong. Well, it just didn't occur in a day. It had been something burning in my heart for a long period of time. I just didn't know how it was going to come into fulfillment. I never knew. But all the while, when I was getting stronger, gaining strength from God and from my parents and from friends around and all, I just, deep down, I began to reach out to people who I know had sickle cell. But it was more of a one-on-one thing. I still do that till today anyway. So it was more of a one-on-one thing, and I just felt, could this thing just get to a larger audience and let people who have sickle cell read my stories and get strengthened and, you know, rest and have hope. And it was a bit tough and all, but I got into a relationship like last year. Yeah,
yes, I was about to actually say
Yes,
congratulations.
yeah,
You're getting
thank
married
you.
soon.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much. Yeah, thank you very
Fantastic.
much. Thank
We'll
you
come
very
and eat
much.
rice.
Yeah, sure. You're very free. Okay. In the course of the relationship, I began to share with my fiance. I told him, said there's this burden in my heart, and I just desire to do this and let people, you know, get hope from my stories, get enlightened from it and all. So it was like, what do you think we can do about this? So he said, why not create, you know, a blog and begin from there? Let's start from there. Let's create a Facebook page. Yes, I could remember I was sitting in my father's sitting room that day, and then he just brought out his phone and then he just created the Live Strong page on Facebook, and it didn't take so long. It was just 10 minutes, and before I knew it, I sent invitations to my friends to like the page and all that. And so far, I think we have about 268 likes. Yeah. Lately, yeah, by now. And he created the page, and from there, the blog too, you know, was created. He designed the blog. Yeah, that's bishopford.com. Yeah, he designed the blog. And I just began to write and then put it up, get pictures that suited and all that. Well, so far, so good. I think a lot of people who have sickle cell have been strengthened through the blog. And how do I know this? I know this because they talk to me one-on-one. Yeah, they talk to me one-on-one. Sometimes they read the story and they're like, Tola, did you do this? I'm like, yes, I did. And they're like, so it means that I can live too and I can survive. So I think a lot of them have gotten courage from the stories that have shared so far. And some people who don't even have sickle cell, who read the stories that I shared over the blog, you know, some of them get in touch with me and they're like, wow, this is great. I'm inspired and all that. So some of them give comments over the blog, and sometimes they just talk to me directly. Yes, that's friends. They reach me over social media.
Do they also share their own stories as well?
Yeah, people with sickle cell whom I have as friends, sometimes when they relay stories to me, I take it upon myself to put it down in writing and share their stories also.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That's amazing, because it's one thing to go through pain and, you know, stay in it or become a victim, but you're going, even through this, you're able to provide support for people that are going through it. And some people may feel like they're alone, that nobody understands the pain that they're going through, you know, and so I think this platform is amazing. I think you should keep it up and just keep, you know, pushing it and encouraging people. In terms of God, and even you talking about the Holy Communion, I know that whenever I have a mild or whatever it is, you know, subconsciously now I don't just go to Panadol. I think of taking Holy Communion, you know, and I even know of a friend that they actually take Holy Communion every day. They break it, you know, and there's so many testimonies from it. So I think some of our viewers may benefit from that, you know, the whole breaking the bread. You know, obviously also in the church we've made it seem like Holy Communion can only be administered by a pastor or a priest. No, it's as, I mean, I do with my kids all the time. In fact, they get excited. We make little ribena and bread, and then we pray and we bless it, you know. So that's remarkable. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been, I know your fiancé, he's amazing. I'm sure, can you tell us about him, actually? Because he must be an amazing person.
Yeah, he is. He's a wonderful guy.
And he provides support.
Of course it does.
Awesome,
It does. It does. It does.
Fantastic.
At least I think the last 2 crises I had and I had to be hydrated, he was there with me. And they came there to, hug me, say hello and check on me.
It's God sent.
So, yeah, exactly, he is.
God sent. Awesome.
Yeah, he is.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, and I wish you all the best in your marriage and your wedding.
Thank you.
Viewers, I hope you've been blessed by this episode. Omotola has shared how she's turned her pain into a message, how her faith in God has been her strength through her different experiences with sickle cell. If you're going through sickle cell, if you have a child that's going through sickle cell, if you have a sibling that's going through sickle cell, or you know someone that is, please visit Omotola's blog. Reach out to her via Facebook or her blog. Her details are on the screen, and I'm sure she'll be able to encourage you through this journey. You're definitely not alone. God is with you. Until next week, stay blessed.